Oh, girl, I'm sorry.
How are you?
Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. It's been one of those days. I literally got stuck.
I cannot hear you. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh. What's wrong with this?
That tremendous profitability in the industry.
Uh-oh.
The first has to do with the buyer. Remember that buyer who didn't care about price? Well, that's starting to change. There's increasing pressure on cost control. It's coming from the government.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
How'd your procedure go?
It was good. I was like I've never taken like narcotics.
Yeah.
They gave me penicillin, and I was like pretty much passed out for like 4 days. Like, and I was in a lot of pain, so I needed it.
Yeah.
Like so yesterday I didn't have any, but it just took so long for, I guess, to get out of my system. So I was like really drowsy, and like, I mean, watching or reading, I just fall asleep. Like, it didn't matter. Like, but I'm doing a lot better. I got a breast reduction, so like I have like greens. And
how's it draining? Is it okay?
It's fine. Yeah, I get them removed next week. So
how does it feel? Does it feel better?
Yeah, they took off 7 pounds.
Wow. You know, I've had patients have it done, and like they just say it's like a godsend. Like they're just like, there is like no words to explain how bad their back was hurting.
Yeah.
So good for you, girl. I'm proud of you.
Like, I have to get this done. They're like, oh, you'll be fine. So I did, and I feel great. So I'm happy.
Hi, Andrea.
Hey.
Guys, I'm so sorry. Like, I got stuck in traffic. Like, I was supposed to be like, it's supposed to be like a 20-minute drive. It was an hour and 45 minutes to get home.
Dang.
I was like, you need to move. And I have like a fast pass that you like put in the window, and then they close that down to only like people with 2 people in the seat. I'm like, oh my God, get out of my way. So I'm calling my husband. I'm like, get on the Zoom and like.
I got on there, and I guess your husband was on. I was like, I think I'm on the wrong.
That's what he's like, I'm on the wrong. He's all, honey, they got off really fast. I'm like, it's okay. I just didn't want you to think I forgot. And I'm like, oh my God.
I think I'm on the wrong meeting.
Like, that's not her.
So. Signed back. And then so it worked out. I'm free, so.
I'm sorry, guys. Like I said, I was like booking home. Like I was at work at like 6:15 this morning, and then I didn't get out until like around like 3 something straight, and then I was like trying to bust home. I'm like, nah.
Oh my goodness. That's all right. That's what happens, though. I'm here, so it's.
I appreciate it. Well, guys, so Andrew, honey, you got I heard on the phone when I was called, I just saw the email, you got my attachments, okay, and you got Sam's attachments and everything?
Yeah, I stuck everything in one file and sent it back to you guys just so we can kind of all go over what we have. And
so I just sent you a little bit of something. It's more updated because I was working on it for an hour. So it's but I sent it to both of you guys so you guys could look at it as well. Okay. I just had a quick question on the Play to Win. Like, I thought he was gonna have us read something, but I guess it's basically his lecture.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically what I'm going off of when I'm explaining what it is. I was like, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing like something I was supposed to read because I didn't answer it, but I can. I was just wondering if I was missing.
Yeah, someone asked him about it, like, because like that was like the optional book to buy or something like that. And I just read something on one of the posts that someone said like, oh, just use what he's like lecturing about.
Okay, that's my concern. I was like, am I supposed to just use this? Is that just enough? So I'll just go over the lecture again. And then
yeah, no worries.
I have the book. I actually
oh, cool.
I got the book for Playing to Win for the I took this class like a few months ago.
Yeah.
Had to drop it because I was too busy and I was going to fail. And that was one of the required readings. So I got the audio book and listened to about half of it before I started reading the actual book. So
how was it?
It's actually pretty good book. It's they talk about a lot of it's focused on Olay, like oil of Olay, and it became how it went from people used to call it oil of old lady, and then it became Olay. And they talk about the book kind of goes through CEOs of different companies and rebranding and repackaging and things like that, where Olay was dirt cheap and you found it in like Walmart and you found it in like, or not even Walmart, but like drugstores.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people stopped buying it because they said it was just like, it was, you know, it was too cheap for good stuff, and it wasn't popular enough for cheap stuff. And they went and found all these different, you know, they hired new scientists to come up with, their dermatologists, to make something that actually made your skin better. And then they started pricing around, and they tried it at like $10, and they tried it at 13, and they tried it all these different prices. And what they found was like, I think $19.99 or $17.99 or something was the magic number. Because if it was more than that, the cheap leaning people thought it was too expensive. And if it was less than that, the people that shopped at like Estee Lauder and like the store brands thought it was too cheap for them. So they found like this middle ground. And then one of them was the CEO from IBM talking about how they repackaged their business services group. Instead of subbing out everything, they actually did it in-house.
Oh, wow.
And they focused on being better to their internal customers, and it led to their increased productivity. It's a pretty good book. I mean, it's got some interesting stuff in it. So,
well, it's interesting, like you bring about the Olay, though. It seems like, you know, like that concept of like in the middle, right? Is that what they're talking about? Like just being in the middle? Is that where, you know, they're not good with one, they're not good with the other kind of a thing?
Right, and it kind of leads into like our topics in here that I wrote about in one of the slides further down, was getting stuck in the middle. They were too expensive to be cheap and too cheap to be expensive, and they found themselves in this like crappy in between, like Circuit City was. You're not good enough to be Best Buy. You're too expensive to be Walmart, and you got canned.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how that ties into that, but yeah.
Yeah. Guys, like one of the slides that I sent you was the question about like the intellectual property, and this one, like I was writing it, and like they're talking about, you know, should they get rid of intellectual property, and then like the specific question, and I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say on this, is like the question was, you know, should like the cost of pharmaceuticals, would they drop dramatically if basically they argue they would disallow patents? And so I don't know, it's an interesting concept, right? Like if they got rid of the ability for patents, like what would it do to like pharmaceutical companies and whatnot? Yeah. And I was like researching it though, and I guess my concern would be if you got rid of like intellectual property, I think innovation would go down pretty dramatically, you know? Like I'll talk from a personal example. Like my son is type 1 diabetic, and so we have like insulin pumps and whatnot for him. And it's like, yeah, it's a lot of money for those things, but I'm very grateful for how they've invested in like that type of technology. Yeah. So I would worry that like I found a statistic that it takes like for like if you're looking at a drug, it's $350 million for a pharmaceutical company to take a drug to market. So if you take away the patent, what would be how could they recoup that? You know, like, you know, if someone could copy it right away, you know, why would they be the ones that would want to do the research and development? I was just wondering what you guys thought on that.
I agree with you. I'm trying to read. What was the slide that you were looking at though?
So mine was on slide 5, I think it was.
It's number 9 on the one that I sent to you, Sam.
Okay, let me look at it so I can read the question all the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to use my iPhone.
No, you're fine. I think it's interesting that, you know, without the guarantee of intellectual property, there, you know, would a company even want, you know, would a company even want to enter the market of pharmaceutical sales, you know?
I wouldn't want to enter the market of pharmaceutical sales, because I think that a lot of those, like pharmaceutical, like especially when they first start off, that's why they don't let you have generic brand meds for so long, you know. So, you know, what's the point? It's like if this patent is open, there's no point and of even, you know, spending this money when you're not even promised to get it back.
Well, and that's what I would worry about. You would think that like in healthcare, yeah, like maybe the access to care, they're saying, well, would the cost? Yeah, it could drop dramatically, but then the companies won't even want to make anything new or cutting edge, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. My nephew was born premature, and he's still so, you know, his medicine without if he didn't have benefits, it would be $100,000 a year, you know, in meds. And you know, but it's like, you know, that it would be cheaper, but it's like, one, would the industry actually try to make these medicines? Would they actually try to come up with it? Would they actually try to put in money to, you know, actually create meds? Because I don't think that they would.
Yeah, I would worry about it.
I think they would. I think it's not all countries operate the way the United States does.
True.
And the cost of medicine, so like a typical prescription in the United States that would cost $150 is like $30 in Canada for this exact same medicine.
Oh yeah, I did hear that.
And part of the reason is, I mean, not to get overly political, but I spent my day with 2 U.S. representatives today. We had I'm part of the American Council of Engineering Companies, and one of the things that we do is I'm on the legislative committee, so we get to meet with these guys. And I met with a Democratic representative and a Republican representative from Colorado, from 2 different districts in the greater Denver area. And, you know, basically the pharmaceutical companies pay money to lobbyists and pay money directly to the campaigns of the politicians on both sides of the aisle.
That's true.
And the insurance companies do the same thing. So the laws that are placed in the United States right now are basically set to protect the insurance companies and the big pharmaceutical companies. And it's not a Democrat or Republican issue. They're buying both sides of the aisle, which is why that's why the Obamacare never got repealed after the Republicans took over, because both parties were being funded by them. So I just invested my money in pharmaceutical companies, and I made 22% returns on my money that year because they blew through the roof. But the bottom line is that, you know, I don't think it's so much an intellectual property issue with pharmaceuticals. It's more of like a campaign finance thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The reason I say that is in other countries, these pharmaceutical companies will try. There are drugs that are legal in other countries that are not legal here.
Yeah, a lot of drugs.
One of the big battles going on right now is marijuana is legal in Colorado, like cannabis is. And there are doctors that are doing cancer treatments with cannabis drugs in Colorado, and insurance companies won't pay for it because the pharmaceutical companies lobby Congress to make it illegal. So we actually have people that are getting cured of like epilepsy and cancer and all these things here that pharmacy drugs can't fix. And it's actually illegal, and their insurance won't pay for it. They're having to pay out of pocket to get cured.
Yeah.
So I don't think pharmacy is as much an intellectual property issue. I think, like, you know, for us, like, we actually, my company has intellectual property on patented workflows on flying drones and like processing data and things like that. And for us, it's more of an issue of, you know, I can buy a camera and Sam can buy a camera and you can buy a camera. But if I can find out something I can do with the camera that you guys can't do, I can't prevent you from buying the camera because I didn't make it. But if I can patent my workflow process where you can't copy what I figured out how to do, that's protecting me because I actually have a proprietary idea. So I think intellectual property should be, I think it's a good thing. I mean, I don't think it should be gotten rid of, but I think, I mean, I don't mean to sound, I don't know, whatever by this, but I think it's just I think it may be a little idealistic and simple to try to tie pharmaceutical drugs to intellectual property because there's so many other things tied into
I agree.
The regulations.
Yeah, you make sense now, like when you
I think I was purely like taking it like just like intellectual property and, you know, I was taking it without like any other forces. So I liked your perspective on that. But it's interesting, like you talk about like the drugs, like there's so many more advanced stuff for like diabetes and stuff like in Europe, and it like drives me insane to read about it, like, because it's like I want to take my kid to Europe, you know, and it's like, you know, you want to like pack up and it's like, okay, look, I could like get a bootleg one, but then it's like to get the supplies, like I would be spending like, you know, like $5,000 for a box, you know, and it's like, you know, it's like, so you get those kind of I mean, I get it that FDA wants to make sure it's all, you know, safe and stuff, but I can see where that also is another proponent of, like, you know, it's a political component, you know. And
I think now that you mention it, it's brought to my, you know, idea that it's a lot of politics too. Like Florida, like we're a retirement place where there's a lot of older people and we can't get marijuana to, you know, they won't pass, you know, legalize marijuana here. And my sister, who was also epileptic, she, you know, she would like that, you know, and some older people, they would like it, but, you know, so I think it's a lot of politics that, you know, people are like, oh no, you know, or this won't work well. And, you know, how would we be able to tax it right and all that stuff. Like I hear a lot of talk about it and it's just like, you know, it's just like, you know, you're right, Andrew.
It's been legal here for 2 years. Crime went down and the state's making $150 million a year in tax revenue off of it. And there are doctors that are literally coming up with new cures to diseases using cannabis oil and edibles and other things. And you don't even get high off of this stuff. They're taking the THC out of it. They have gummies for kids that are solving problems for kids that they can't fix.
I've read a lot of articles about like pediatric cancer and the oil, like, you know, so you know, I'm a big proponent. It's like, you know, I think you need to explore all that as far as, you know,
I mean, it's like people are walking around like, you know, non-cognizant. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, the politics just get really involved in a lot of decisions that sway things. And, you know, people always say that, you know, you can't mix business and politics, shouldn't mix. And like, you know, honestly, the free market doesn't run the way it should because it has a little bit too much outside influence from the government. And whether they're doing it for the right reasons or not, their heart may be in the right place, but they've modified a lot of things and screwed them up. And it's been, you know, and I tell everybody, you know, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm just me. I just tell you, it's not a partisan issue. It's a politics issue. It's too many hands are in the pot manipulating too many things they have no business with, and it doesn't matter who they identify with. The problem is that they're doing it in the first place, and that's what screws it up.
I agree with them. And I mean, I'm looking again from a very personal standpoint. Like I always get the idea, like people tell me, oh, don't you think it's great they're going to cure diabetes? And I look at them, I'm like, you know what, dude? Listen, they're never going to cure diabetes because it's $100 billion industry. Like let's get real about this. Like you tell me they're going to. No, I'm going to tell you right now, and like they're all idealistic about it. It's like, you know what? Look, and I'm a medical person. Like I'm all about research and all that stuff. But it's like let's just be clearly honest on this. Like you have $100 billion, you ain't curing anything. Like that's it. You're going to find ways to keep it going. Like it is a business. It's a true business. Like I mean, and unfortunately, that's the way it is. Like, so I think sometimes people talk to me and I feel like really like, nah, dude, I got, you know, no way, dude, that's not happening, you know?
No, it's the truth. And I mean, they had a study that came out, I think it was last week, that showed that 50% of cancer patients who die are dying from the chemo, not from the cancer.
Yeah.
And, you know, and people say, oh, when are we going to fix AIDS or when are you going to fix cancer? I'm like, go look at Pfizer's profits last year. Nobody's fixing anything. Like there's no incentive to do it. Like they're not going to work themselves out of a job.
That's why they say, that's why everyone always says the medical that business, that industry is where to go to make money because.
And that's I think you won't fix it until you pass a law that says you're not allowed to profit off of someone's health. Like you can recoup your cost and you can recoup your investors, but I mean, you know, there's a big movement in Europe. Wow, the sun's really bright. Sorry.
Yeah, I can see
it. You're like God.
Yeah, I'm turning into the sun. I'm sorry.
There you go. Well, barely.
It's still, hang on. It's rough. Like the sun's setting over the mountains right now, and it's pretty intense.
That is hilarious.
So,
there we go. Welcome back.
So,
what were you going to say about Europe? They're going to pass a law in Europe. What were you saying?
Some of the parts of Europe they don't regulate profit on private business.
Yeah.
They have like healthcare is seen as more of a social justice than it is as a way to make profit. And I don't really agree with their model because I have friends that live in Europe and I've been over there and some of them pay 50% in taxes and they still have to pay for their healthcare and it's not that great. And, you know, it's for me, like, you know, everybody has this great foolproof idea. My idea is like, I can't tell you what works, but I can tell you what doesn't.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And if I come up with the right idea, nobody's going to listen anyway, because it's not going to be profitable to too many people that have influence.
Right.
So it's somewhere in the middle. And both of the congressmen talked about it today in their own takes on it. And
interesting.
I'll be honest, you know, my own personal opinion of what would probably work best for the United States is to treat it like car insurance, where it's remained privatized. The government, it's deregulated by the government, and the companies are allowed to go across state lines. And that's one of the biggest things that lowered car insurance is, like, you know, all three of us can get Geico. We live in 3 different states, but we can't get the same health insurance plan because somewhere there's a politician getting his pocket line to keep my company out of your states. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's true.
When they increased the competition, it helped a lot. And the other thing was that you know, when companies can compete in multiple states, the politicians tend to get less corrupt because you have more politicians to pay off.
Yeah, you know? That's a good point.
you can't pay off 50 states, but you can pay off one. And that's where a lot of the healthcare comes into issues where the car insurance doesn't, because, you know, what do you care? I mean, there's 25 car insurance companies in one state, and they also service 40, 45, 46, 48 other ones.
Right.
You know, it's not a lot. So.
Well, what do you guys think? Like, so, like, intellectual property, like, a different part of that question was like, should Coke and Pepsi should they have to publish their formulas? Like, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, though. I mean, I think they've invested the research and development. They should be able to retain that trade secret. What do you guys think?
I believe in trade secret. I believe that. I don't believe that they should have to share it. I mean, it would really cause chaos everywhere. I mean, hey, you know, Publix, well, that's our grocery store here, but you know, Walmart and all them, Sam Cola, they've made a good comparison. Some people, they can drink that cola. So why should they have to share whatever, you know, their trade secret?
Yeah.
It's great for competition, and it's great for the industry. They work hard for it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference with medicine too, is that Coca-Cola and Pepsi don't receive like research grants and what's the other word? They don't receive like subsidies from the government to create stuff. Whereas the pharmaceutical companies do, and the whole reason for holding the generics off is to give them a period to recoup their expenses before they make their money back.
Yeah.
But, you know, Coke and Pepsi aren't getting the government help that Big Pharma is. So, I mean, I'm with you guys. It's a trade secret. If I don't have to tell companies what I do different to make me more money, why should Coke and Pepsi have to share their formula? Like, that's kind of crap.
I agree.
I'm sure, I don't know about you where you work, Andrew, but where I used to work, I used to have to I had to do a non-compete. I had to non-compete, you know, so that if I did decide to leave, I couldn't work somewhere else right after, so that, you know, I wouldn't share basically what they're doing right then. And industries are always evolving. What I would tell them is probably something they already knew anyways, a year or 2 years later. And I believe that, you know, I firmly believe in that.
I don't have a non-compete, but a lot of my peers do. I argued and basically refused to work for the company if they stuck me with one, because I've been through it before. And they, you know, different firms, I can tell you in like professional services sector, different firms have a different take. Some people feel like if I give you a non-compete, it means I don't trust you and I can bend you over a barrel. And then some firms feel like they would rather not give their people non-competes and pay them well, compensate them well, work with them, and give them a reason to stay, because then they're less soured and they're not like looking for ways to get around it. So there's both sides to it, but I definitely know what you're talking about. A lot of companies do have a non-compete.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's a double-edged sword, but like, you know, I think it's really also what capacity you're working in. I mean, like, do you have the, you know, like my husband, he's an engineer too. And so it's like, you know, the software they use is like very proprietary, and like, you know, they keep it very locked down, you know, and as far as like the competing part, you know, they don't want him to go to another company to, you know, to be able to share any of those secrets, if you will, you know. So I think it's probably what type of access to information you have as well. I think, you know, in what capacity too. So that's a good opinion, guys. I really appreciate that. how did you guys do on any of those first slides about Coke and Pepsi? Were they like any questions on those?
I started it. I actually went from the bottom. I figured we probably would have started from the beginning, Andrew, because I think that was the slide that we had to split. So
yeah, I kind of just went through them kind of like you did, I guess. Or I answered.
I did fully the well, not completely all the way full, but I'm almost done with supplier power, buyer power, and rivalry.
Yep.
And, for the supplier power in chapter 4, last week's chapter, it kind of stated that suppliers didn't really have as much power, and Porter basically said differently. He said that they do have a lot of power and a lot of things they do, and I kind of agree with him that a lot of suppliers do have powers because they could charge what they want to charge.
I went through, I answered that one, but I can't find it.
I mean, send me what you have, and then I'll go through whatever, and then I'll do whatever.
Well, I tried to save mine and yours, and I don't know if I deleted one or I didn't fill that one out.
Andrew, when you sent it, when I opened it, it was like a blank document. Yeah, I didn't see anything on there. Like
really?
It was just the template. There was no added information.
I had trouble saving it too. I actually lost it the first time, so I had to start all over kind of. So I had trouble saving it.
Actually, I'll tell you, if the reason I think you guys couldn't see it was because I didn't rename it. So if you already have that file open as just the template, when you try to open it under the same name, it's just going to show up as the template. So I'll rename it next.
Maybe that's it.
So the comments I had for the suppliers was I personally think suppliers have limited power because they're almost solely dependent on Coke and Pepsi, and they don't have – no one else really uses their products. So if 90% of your revenue is coming from one source, that source really owns you. You have no leverage to negotiate. It's not like I can go to Coke and say I want 20% more. Yeah, if I go and say, I tell Coke I want 20% more money, Coke's going to look at me and go, who else are you going to sell it to?
Yeah, right.
And
I think it goes along with how important what you are supplying is. Is it is it differentiated? Is it who else are your other other customers? As far as that are you're giving that to, because if they have another customer, you're right, they're going to say well, fine, you might not be doing it, but this other cola company is going to buy me out, so whatever, we'll go to them. But if they're stuck, there's really not a lot of
that may have good.
No, I said, they're going to just stick to it to stay, steady and to actually generate income rather than not receive any at all.
And that may have been why Coke bought out some of their suppliers, because, if Coke's getting 70% of their supply from one company and they're getting 10% from someone else, and that 10% says we want to raise our prices, Coke will just tell them to go stick it. And they'll tell the other people making 70%, they'll go, we're going to expand your factory and add another production line. And you're going to start producing more of our stuff. We're not going to use.
Wouldn't you think that Coke wouldn't do that, and because of trade secrets, wouldn't they try not to buy, to tell that one, hey, we're going to buy from you? It's not that easy because they don't want everyone to know the full formula.
No, I think what happened was Coke would just cut their contract with the company trying to hold them hostage, and they would expand the company, the other one that's bigger, and just buy the company. I mean, if you want to control all the power, buy all the resources. Don't buy anything from anyone.
Wasn't that what they were talking about? I think it was even a question on the quiz, that backwards integration or whatever, so how they're fine, we'll just do it ourselves, we can get into that business as well. So it helped them identify if they wanted to enter that market, maybe on a backwards level,
Yep. And my company's done that. We depend on surveyors to go out and survey marks that we put in the field. And if we have surveyors that are not reliable, if it takes them too long to survey it, or if they screw it up too much, and if they're causing me to fall behind schedule because I can't depend on them, we'll just have our own surveyors and go do it ourselves. And that way we don't depend on them anymore. And we're just, see ya, whatever.
But don't you think it'd be crazy though? If you were in business with Coke or Pepsi, don't you think you'd want to bend over backwards to please them?
And I think most of them do. I think whatever power a supplier would have, the only way a supplier has power is if a supplier is, I guess
unique.
to make batteries, you have to have nickel.
Right.
Like all these hybrid cars.
Right.
You know, the president said a while back, everyone in America, he wanted everyone in America to drive a hybrid. There's not enough nickel in the world for everyone to drive a
right.
Like, it doesn't exist.
Right.
So if you're a nickel mine and you're someone who's supplying nickel, and you have 3 different companies, you know, if Tesla and Toyota,
right.
Nissan are all buying nickel from you, you have power because you have a resource and you're the only one.
Right.
But if you're, you know, if you're selling office supplies and you're selling paper, how much leverage do you really have? Like, you're nobody. So I think it would depend on the supplier's market share as to how much leverage they have.
I agree.
In this case, you know, you don't really have – you may be the largest supplier, but you only have 2 or 3 companies to sell to.
Right.
If you're selling to Coke and Coke says we're going to cut your prices down,
right.
what do you tell them? Oh, fine, I'll go sell to Dr. Pepper. Well, Dr.
right.
Pepper's volume is like 10% of Coke's.
Right.
So, you know, you don't really have – they have the leverage in that case.
You would think that they would make up for maybe decreased profit for more volume or something like that. You know,
absolutely. They would.
Because our economies of scale are so high, you know, as far as.
That's it. And that's what they would do is basically, you know, if you've been a supplier to Coke for 50 years or 60 years, it's not like you're going to repurpose your factory tomorrow. If Coke says we're cutting your price down, you're going to go to Coke and you're going to go, thank you for still giving me a job.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Yeah. We'll have to do some adjustments, but we'll make it work.
Right.
While still following under, you know, their legal stuff because they can't, you know, hire minors. I mean, young laborers. They have to still work under a certain standard as well. But they do what they have to do because they're the supplier and they want the business.
That's it.
And that was funny that you brought up about like the nickel though. I just read an article about helium, how the world's supply of helium is like really getting low, like, you know, and like that. And then if you think about helium, like, oh, it's like just for balloons, but how many medical devices use helium as like a, and so I was like, oh, interesting. So like my husband, like he refuses, like, I'm like, our baby's birthday is next week. He's like, we're not buying helium balloons. I was like, really? I was like, you know, but you know, it's like, it's an interesting concept, you know, it's like, well, look, you know, you're running out of helium. And it's like, if you think about like the medical devices that run off of it, like, yeah, they have a really good market, you know?
Right. Let's just run through these real quick. The first one that talks about barriers to entry and, you know, how difficult would it be for another deep pockets player to enter the market? I said the barriers to entry would be packaging and bottling. So like bottling is putting the drink in a can. Packaging would be like boxes or pallets or whatever, like for the cans. Raw materials, which is whatever you would need to make the cans or make the packaging or anything like that. Distribution, the market of actually shipping the stuff. And then marketing agreements. The marketing agreements would be like fountain rights. You know, like Coke has McDonald's and Coke has Burger King and all the big players. So I said it would be nearly impossible for another company to become a new competitor other than through acquisition.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Just due to the sheer size of the companies in the market and their global reach, there's too many bulk contracts that would have to be put in place. Yeah. And Coke and Pepsi have tremendous leverage over the other players that the company would team with. So, like, if we went to the canning company and told the canning company, hey, I need, 6 billion cans to can, Andrew's soda, the canning company could look at me and go, go to hell. I've got a 100-year contract with Coke and Pepsi. Right. I'm not. And in all reality, Coke and Pepsi would probably have long-term agreements in place with their distributors to prevent that from happening. Basically,
of course.
Sam, I'll give you a contract for the next 100 years if you don't sell to anybody else. Like, you'd be an idiot to turn that down. I'd be like, I got 100 years worth of business just so I don't sell to Karen. Like, done.
You talk about non-compete, right? Like,
exactly.
That's total.
Non-compete for sure.
And just for the sheer size of how many countries that they sell in, like, I don't think it would be feasible for anybody to come in and compete with them on that level. I mean, you may be able to start like a small local thing in like Publix. Publix may be able to start their own drink service, but they're not going to compete with Coke and Pepsi on a worldwide.
They'll never be able to. I mean, they could just sell enough for their industry just to get, a cheaper version,
Yep.
Well, don't you think too, though, like another barrier would be Coke and Pepsi themselves as far as like like if they saw a company that was starting to do well, don't you think they would then want to jump in and like buy them out? You know, you can see that. Like it's like kind of like I don't know if you guys like follow like craft brews and stuff like that, where like the bigger like Anheuser-Busch and stuff, like if they have like they'll start buying them out, you know. And my husband like hates it because he's like, oh, they're selling out, you know, kind of a thing. But I can see where like they like in this case another entry would be the Coke and Pepsi. Their pockets are going to buy them out as far as
the social media industry now. You know, every time this new social media industry comes out, like Instagram, Facebook. Snapchat, Facebook tried to buy that, you know, and it's all the same thing. They'll just try to buy it out. They don't want to compete. They just want it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just the same thing. Like Breckenridge Brewery here in Colorado got bought by InBev, which is the Belgian company that bought Budweiser. Yeah. So it's just, you know, they buy each other up. So that's a good point. So we're here. One of them talks about substitutes in the industry. It says, if water is a substitute, how can Coke and Pepsi charge so much when tap water is free? Does convenience, image, lifestyle, or addiction play into this? And I said the main substitutes are going to be water, juices, and alcohol. And the reason I say that is that Sprite and all the other ones are owned by Coke or Pepsi. So it's not really a competition. Like if you choose Sprite instead of Coke, Coke's still making money.
You know what I'm saying? I get what you're saying,
So I'm saying
not like water, a flavor,
Yeah, water's free. You can't really say that sports drinks are because they both own sports drinks companies. So like juice, and I'm thinking in a restaurant with fountain rights. So if Coke has fountain rights, you're not going to see Pepsi's products or someone or Dr. Pepper or someone else's stuff in there. But they may sell fruit juice. They may sell like, you know, you go to like McDonald's sells orange juice. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if you go to another restaurant, they may sell alcohol on top of their soft drinks. But that's
I see what you're saying.
That's really the only direct competitors to them in one setting.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But I also agree too that they're playing up like the image of like, you know, now that they're trying to that downward trend because people are more health conscious, that, you know, that lifestyle of more healthier. So like they're just putting a little different twist on it. So I agree.
And they have commercials out now. I saw like last week that says like, you know, enjoy Coke with food, and it shows like everyone eating all these different foods and someone's drinking Coke with it.
Yeah, so I haven't seen that one.
I put in here that like lifestyle and addiction are probably the biggest reasons why people will pay for a drink versus drinking water for free. And I say that because, you know, like how many times, like if you go to the movies, my wife and I go to the movies, if we buy popcorn, we buy Coke. Like they go together. And a lot of people do that. Or people that go eat a burger always drink a Coke with it.
Oh, for sure.
So I think there may be like
my job, like at my job, my coworkers are just like, I could just drink a Coke, you know, like, you know, it's just
it's ingrained. It's ingrained. It's not, absolutely.
So that's why I think for some people it's addiction. Like they just drink caffeine all day and they just want caffeine. Like coffee drinkers. Coffee drinkers are the same way. I guess coffee would be a substitute too. I didn't think about that, but coffee would be one. And so
that's a good one to add. I like that. Yeah, that's a really good one to add. Good.
Coffee would.
So guys, how do you think so Sam, and you guys think you'll be able to finish up like those ones you'll add it to tonight, and then
I'll be working on this for the rest of the night.
Okay.
So I'll have it to you guys within the next couple hours.
Okay.
I mean before I go to bed, so I'm not sure what time, but
Andrew, my slides are there, and I just added like the 2 to the works site. I just like pushed it down, like the top 2 are the new ones. So I added that like that universal one that had the Cola Wars on there, so that one will stay in the textbook. And then I added the 2 that I added to my slides, and I saw how Sam did hers too.
Yeah, with the film, I added the film that I used, and also for the Zoom, I'm gonna work on my Socratic stuff to turn in, and then I'll work on. It's pretty easy, so.
Okay, perfect.
I'm not really worried about getting it turned in. Like, we'll get it turned in by the deadline. We have a couple days to get
I'll definitely.
Okay.
I've got the slide I had that you guys gave me for the reasons functional business and corporate level strategies have to align.
Yeah.
I just went in through the list of the different lists of strategies, like generic cost leadership, low cost differentiation, focus differentiation, focus cost leadership, best cost, and low overhead.
Yeah.
And then I said, if all the strategies don't align with each other, the companies will fail from being pulled in different directions.
Yeah.
So you can't differentiate like Mercedes-Benz if you're trying to be a low overhead company.
Right.
Like, you want to be the highest price car, and you want people to go, wow, you have the highest price, and you go, yeah, and I'm worth every bit of it. Like you can't be low overhead and differentiated. And then I put a note in there about how companies get stuck in the middle where the price is too high and the volume is too low. And I used the Circuit City example where they're more expensive than Walmart, but they're not differentiated with high enough customer service like Best Buy. So they find themselves in the middle, and there's no place for them because you're like, you can't. And one of the examples I didn't write in here, but it was like, an outdoor store, like an REI versus, REI is more specialized than Walmart if you want outdoor gear. But if you live in the mountains in Colorado, you want to go to a ski shop. You don't want to go to REI because you're looking just for skiing stuff. You don't care about tents.
Right.
And that's one of the things too, where like different levels of differentiation can push each other out. So like if you're going to differentiate, you can't really be low overhead and differentiate because you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and you have to be able to pay for that. Like you can't. You're not going to sell 800,000 pairs of skis in a year.
Right.
So you can't focus on low overhead and best cost and be the most differentiated like firm.
Right. That makes sense. Well, it sounds good. So I'll have everything.
All right. And then guys, did it work for you how I split it up? Like, did that work seem comfortable? Like I can do that again next week. Just go through and just count them out. And I tried to look at like the volume of it. So like, ones that looked a little bit longer. So I tried to kind of differentiate it that way. So
that's fine. I'm cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being so flexible tonight. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, we'll discuss meeting via email. Have a good night, you guys.
All right, guys. Thank you. All right, bye.
Bye.